Well, hi, folks. Thank you for joining us. We just finished the premiere of episode 5, I believe, in our cannabis series. Hello, Kimberly. Thank you for being here. I see we have some others. I guess for starters, how about some feedback on what you thought of this story? We're still very much in the beginning stages of this cannabis series, and would be grateful for any input. We certainly got a lot on we got a lot on our Facebook page, and that was that was interesting for sure. And so, what did y'all think? She's very concise in the way that she presented the information. I thought that was very nice and interesting and informative. Yes, it was. I did actually meet Cullen too. He was there when we did the interviews. We did the interviews and we did that interview in Denver, and he was along. Didn't do an interview, but was there. So who else is with us? Glow in the dark. Good to see you here again. Good day, Glenn, and everyone around the world on this beautiful Saturday. I hope all is well. Kimberly says, I think that it's sure different from back in the Woodstock days till now. Yeah, we interviewed a physician who said this isn't Woodstock weed, and I thought that was kind of funny. Saf, yes, it is. It is not a tragic ending. It's an ending with hope. Hmm. Who else? Saf, I don't I don't think I remember seeing your name in these live events before. Or is this a first one for you? Hmm. I also wanted to let you guys know we're going to be having another premiere tomorrow. Tomorrow evening, it'll be at 7 p.m. Central Time, and we will have a link for you guys. So, yeah, yeah. There's no keeping the dogs in line. It's as soon as I'm live, they decide they've got to make noise. That's the perils. So the fentanyl story that we have to premiere tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central, is I think I it's a little dark. It's a they're all rough. This story that's coming tomorrow has more history of the progression of addiction and withdrawal. It kind of haunts me a little. Hi, Kristen. Thank you for joining us. How are things with you? Yeah, I just put the burden of talking right back on you guys. So, so who else is in the group? Is there any other new people? Any other people who might have had comments on our Facebook post announcing this premiere? Anybody? Fly Girl says drugs nowadays are such a hodgepodge of other items. It's so scary for these young people today. For sure. It is. It definitely is. And it's insane the level of misinformation that is out there and the level of we see it a lot with the cannabis series. Ah, that sounds really good, Kristen. Yeah, drugs nowadays are such a hodgepodge. Yeah, they completely are, and there's so much misinformation. There's been quite a few comments in our fentanyl series from people who have some trick that they think they figured out to be able to identify counterfeit pills from legitimate pharmaceuticals. It's scary the level of misinformation is out there, and I'm starting to see the same kind of thing with cannabis. There is a lot of very adamant cannabis defenders out there, and no no judgment. More power to you. We're not saying that, but there is misinformation out there. There is a substantial amount of cannabis users who comment on our channel who have this idea that because they have used cannabis for a long time that somehow that makes them an expert. It doesn't work that way. I've used a car for a long time, but I'm no expert on cars. I've known how to tell time for a long time, but I'm no expert on watches. The Pink Shop, my son recently graduated from a high school here in South Texas. He would always tell me how bad it was in his school with THC vaping cartridges being sold in bathrooms at school. Wow. Kimberly says, have you ever think about making stories about how people become users? Yeah, kind of. Usually, usually in the recovery series, there is something about how it began, how using began. Yes, glow in the dark, exactly. I've been using a toothbrush a long time, so I must be an expert on toothbrushes. So I do going back to that uh, how people become users. Yeah, there's something to that. We have in so in a lot of the recovery stories we hear that first, and in a substantial number of the fentanyl stories we hear about the evolution, how it happened. I don't know the interest. There has to be a substantial interest. I'm not sure how best to present that, how to make that captivating. I'm not really sure about how to make anything captivating. It's more of a so far so good thing with the series that we put on our channel. So who else is with us? Not very many. It's early afternoon or mid afternoon, and mid afternoon on a Saturday. I imagine there's a lot of people out doing other things. Kimberly says, Glenn, my friend, told me that he had stuck himself in the eye for 9 times with a needle, stuck himself in the eye with 9 times with a needle from fentanyl. Holy cow. How? It's just hard to imagine how you could get to that point where where you could do that. Huh. Weird, weird stuff. Oh, look at there. I found something new. I'm so grateful for you folks to be here. So who else has some questions or comments regarding the topic of the premiere? Because we got so many comments on Facebook when we announced the premiere. And we'd love to hear from some of you folks. Where's Brenda? Look, it's Brad. Probably just finished a nap, right? Oh, it's only 100 and something degrees here in sunny Central Florida. Oh, yeah. It's a little cloudy here today, and so it's not quite that hot. Brad, I keep my youthful look by staying younger than you. That's my trick. He said nobody told him what the outcome was going to be. So what happened? Wow. Now we're all out of tumblers. By the coffee cups, yes, we do have we have a store on our website at texas-pictures.com. There's a link to our store, and on the store is t-shirts and sweatshirts and hoodies and coffee mugs. Coffee mugs like this with the it says stories that matter on the back, or I don't know what's the back and what's the front really. But man, Brenda's here. Good job. And it has our logo on front. There's also a coffee mug just like this, except it has a fentanyl awareness graphic on it. And the beauty of these, they're expensive. They're 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 pricey. I think 16, $18. That's not our doing. But I can tell you that it may be because you never have to wash it. It stays clean. I drink coffee in it all day long. Never shows any dirt. It's wonderful. I imagine you can apply the same kind of strategy if you chose to buy black underwear. I'm sure Brad could field that one. I mean, my criticism about the hoodies is that there's no zip up hoodies. They're just pullover, and that just annoys me. They do not show any grime. Nothing. Nothing. Now, if you put cream in your coffee, then it might not work the same. But if it's just coffee, it's clean forever. Self cleaning. That's why it's so expensive, I think. Hey, okay. Brenda says, "Hey, chatters. I hope all is well with everyone. Can y'all believe it will be 1 year next month. All glory goes to God. That's a reasonable price as long as they're not made of cadmium and lead like those Stanley. Ooh, I didn't know that. But no, they are ceramic. I believe. Yeah, yeah. That's right, Brad. So good to the last drop. You're talking about the coffee mug or black underwear. So anyway, folks, back to this premiere we just had. Is there anyone? I really thought, just judging by the comments that we got on our Facebook page, on the Texas Pictures Facebook page about the story, that we would have some I don't know, naysayers, someone who wanted to present a different perspective. Okay, so where's your number at now, Brenda? 330 something. That sound right? I'm just guessing. But I feel like the high 330s. So I'm going to share with you guys some of the comments that we got on our Facebook page because I find it, I found them interesting. All right, everybody. Everybody in live. I've got to go back from my lunch break, but thank you for being here, Glow. Glad to see you here. Kimberly says this is scary journey for me when I had lost my friend John, forever 48. So that's why I'm that's why I'm going fighting, saving lives for our children. Very good, Kimberly. All right, folks. So let me see if I can get some. I'm gonna put this right there. Ah, Brenda's off for another Diet Coke. It's not just replacing one substance for another, right? I'm just saying, you know. All right, so we're gonna go through some of these comments that are on Facebook. Guy named Mike says, "What's going on here? Somebody aggressively eat a bag of chips, so now they're calling it psychosis." I miss the 60s and 70s. You either smoked weed or you didn't, and there was no psychosis. How about that? Then someone said, a guy named Max said, "You're funded by a brewery, aren't you?" There could be something said for being funded, but we are not. The rhetoric from the cannabis industry and users is hard to combat. It has been known for at least 18 decades to cause short-term and long-term psychotic symptoms. Thank you for raising awareness. Thank you, Christine. Thank you for thank you for sharing that. Yes, it's been well documented for a long time. A guy named David says, "Look, everyone, big pharma, tobacco, and alcohol are whining and crying again." Derek says, "I have been around weed all my life. I never saw one case of psychosis in anyone I know that smokes marijuana." And that's a lot of people. Capitalize the word lot. I did some I did see some concerning issues once CBD and certified hemp hit the scene. Research under schedule will sort this out if we let it. Okay. Courtney says, brought to you by Big Pharma. Brian says, was from Texas, of course. LMAO, the anti cannabis state. So the story is from Wisconsin. Terry says cannabis does not induce psychosis. Question mark. Exclamation point. What? Is that a question? It sounds like a statement. And then it says, sheesh. Reefer madness and reefer is misspelled, is over. Probably toked on that garbage sprayed with synthetics. My gosh, they're just the. Israel says, I've been trying to smoke myself into a psychosis for years. It's a lie. Steven says, ridiculous. Rich, sure, sure. Uh, as long as big pharma and the drug cartels can lobby our Congress to keep it illegal, the laws and propaganda from big pharma will keep being fed BS. So there's that. Uh, um, there was one I saw here that had 18 replies. Where is it? Anyway, I don't have any problems talking about this. It's really educational. It is that we learn as we go. The same thing with fentanyl and the same thing with the addiction recovery series and human trafficking and domestic violence. We're learning as we go. And so this is how I learn. And it's how we all learn. Yeah, I feel like I've missed some good ones here. I really want to share some of them. Terry says, weed is a plant, and we have a cannabinoid system just for the use of it. Yeah, that's why the cannabinoid system exists. Nux, where's Nux? Still haven't seen Nux in quite a while. Kind of worried about that. It is for Cullen's story. I don't know if the storyteller or Cullen is in the live event right now. Kristen says, Glenn taught me that not only LSD can cause schizophrenia through cannabis psychosis, can also cause schizophrenia. Yeah, there's research that supports that. Jane's journey, Governor Peltier went missing and died in Florida. He smoked weed, went into a panic. Wow. Interesting. So I'm trying to find some of the exceptionally intellectual comments. Let's see. Clay says marijuana is not addictive. Carol Carol says another retard who doesn't smoke cannabis but thinks he knows everything about cannabis. You don't get addicted to cannabis. You can get a mental dependency on it, but you physically do not become addicted to it. You go, Carol. What's funny to me is is the I'm an expert because I use it perspective. There we go. My gosh, these it's just it's crazy. It's fascinating. Marco, I quit smoking weed for 6 months, but now I'm smoking again, and my mental health is tremendously worse. They easily give me a weed card in Florida. It is highly addicting. The the line between a physical and a mental addiction, I think, is a pretty fuzzy line, and dependency can be psychological and still be completely valid. Christine says 19.2 million Americans in 2023 with cannabis use disorder. This on something that is not addictive. So, gee, Christine, I got to ask, where'd that number come from? Mark Embarco, before quitting the first time, I had horrible withdrawals. I'm sober from alcohol, and my withdrawals were even worse with weed. And Brina, welcome. That's a new name, I believe. After 27 years, I'm finally free from my addiction. I suffered from cannabinoid hyper hyper hyperdesi. Is that cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome? A few times. We have we have a couple of stories. One is already published. The other one I don't think we've edited yet. But we have a couple of stories that are about cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. All right, let's get back to those. Where'd I go? Okay, here we are. So, I'll be all right. So it is. There is 81 comments on our post announcing the premiere. Just the premiere. Bath salt. I don't think I can speak from a really informed perspective about bath salt. I don't feel like I know enough. Maybe some of the people in the chat can. Well, let me see. if I can get back to this without screwing it up. So some of the comment, it's fascinating to me how some of the comments can be so hostile. And then there's always a lot of comments that are about alcohol, the whole what about alcohol thing, or what about alcohol and tobacco. People have also said, well, sugar's dangerous too. Why not stick to the subject? I'm not breaking any new ground here. We're just talking about sticking to the subject. And the subject is cannabis. Everybody knows about the dangers of alcohol. Take one of these. Take one of these. The doctors told me. Yeah. So it's pretty fascinating, the comments. I think big pharma, people accusing us of representing big pharma. That's fascinating. Sorry, it's just fascinating. I see, and there's still more comments coming in. Don says, blame the world for lack of knowledge and lack of discipline. Accountability is the answer to all the issues here. And I don't know if you guys heard that ding or not, but yeah, they keep coming in. It's just Clay says, this is a bunch of BS. I've smoked marijuana my entire life, and I know damn well it does not cause psychosis. And Tarika replied, this is good. You have also never died in an automobile collision with a train, but it happens. Yeah, so it's uh, fascinating to read these comments. You're funded by a brewery, bought to you by Big Pharma. Reefer madness with the word reefer misspelled. Nothing better than endless responses from addicts about their most loved thing ever. Clay says, marijuana is not addictive. David says, your cousin said she doesn't do reverse cowgirl on you. Yeah, okay. Well, we'll just let that one go. Another retard. Yeah, I did that one. Uh, Don says, how are they addicts if it's not addictive? Well, I guess this is about as much as I can find. There's so many replies that it is kind of challenging to navigate them while also paying attention to you guys. And you guys are definitely the priority. So, where am I? Leona. What else have I missed? I have thought that smoking pot would calm my nerves and other problems in my life back in the 20s. Carla, if you sent me a message on Facebook, this is from Brenda, I won't be able to read it because they want me to create a pin for some stupid reason. Yeah, yeah, it is. I have a better plan, not use Facebook Messenger. Yeah, that fixes that. Why does weed give you the munchies? I don't know, but that's supposed to be one of the perks is that it creates an appetite among people that are going through chemotherapy. Leona says, I'm not a pot smoker and I rarely drink alcohol, but I've seen the devastating effects of pot and alcohol addiction on several family members. It is awful. Yeah. I'm sure most families, if not all families, have some story like that somewhere in their tree. So so here's a message from Jennifer, the storyteller. She says you're doing great, and that must be me. I'm watching, but for some reason I cannot access the live comment part, so I'm just getting bits and pieces from my mom and from what you're saying. But I'm watching, and you're doing great. Wish I could comment, but can't figure out how for some reason. So it's kind of cool she brought that up because if you're watching from a TV, from a smart TV or whatever, or casting to a TV, you won't see the chat interface there, but you can watch on the TV and still have it open on your phone as well, and you'd be able to chat there. So I hear. Kristen says 1 tablespoon of Bob's baking soda plus 3 tablespoons of organic maple syrup for 4 minutes on low. Do not burn. Take 1 teaspoon a day. Oh, that sounds like work. I mean, I'd feel better once I had that done. Thank you for sharing. Leona says, from my experience watching a family member with pot addiction, as my mom used to say about him, his get up and go got up and went. Yeah, that does seem like a thing. It's enough of a thing that it has become one of those typical perceptions. If you think about someone who's labeled as a pothead, they tend to be kind of lethargic. The stereotype is like that. Brenda says, Kristen, thanks for the recipe. I do a tablespoon of local honey for the same thing. Yeah, local honey is supposed to help you with things like allergies also, as long as it's local to whatever area you're in. Kimberly says, my sister went from a user to addicted, and I know she won't stop using pot and drinking along with popping pills. That's something substantial that we got to interview a former White House drug czar last year, and he was a drug czar during Nixon and Ford, so he's old, and he is brilliant, and he's got no filter anymore because he doesn't care. He's old. He doesn't have to make any political considerations regarding what he says. He just tells it like it is, and he has done a ton of research about addiction in his life and recovery. Very, very sharp guy. And he says the substance doesn't really matter. When we were making a documentary on synthetic cannabinoids, we interviewed some people who lived on the street, and several of them were talking about the fake weed, the K2, the spice, and they were saying that it helped them quit drinking. Oh, Brad, I so appreciate you being here. So it would be great. Uh, so here's another message from our storyteller. I don't know what that noise is. She says, "I learned not to disagree with addicts who just want to defend their addiction." That makes sense. There's no, it's not going to go anywhere. But it does help that they sometimes hear things like this story and grow from that. So, but for people who struggle with cannabis addiction, she says, and are truly open to how it might be harming them, and to parents who worry that this might be happening to their kids, I'm so thankful for my son's story being shared in hopes that it helps someone else. Thanks, Glenn. Thanks again, Glenn. You rock. Well, I appreciate that very much, Jennifer. I'll let me see where I'm at. It's Colin's mom on my youngest son's account. Finally figured it out. Thanks everyone for watching. Even the addicts and naysayers. All press is good press. It all moves towards clarity. Plant seeds may not change anyone's mind about anything today, but everyone's mind has a new bit of data in it that they embrace or that they consider nonsense, but it's still there. Leona says, I learned not to disagree with addicts either. It's a waste of time. But when people ask me my opinion, then I think pot is as addictive as alcohol. Maybe. How do you really measure addiction? How do you know? You know? Yeah, I don't know if you guys are hearing that ding or not, but I sure am. And the ding means someone else made a comment on the premiere announcement. Brad, yes, I do. Does your new bride not know how to cook? Brad, how's that shiny new bride? Whoops. Yeah, I know what I'm doing here. I do. I know. I think addiction is when you can't live without a substance, just my humble opinion. Yeah, that's reasonable. If when you get up in the morning and all throughout your day, your mission is nothing but figuring out where your next substance of choice is coming from, that's addiction. I say that if you're drinking alcohol and pot, both are addictive. Roadblocks, which is our storyteller, to help is medicine, like getting a med card and heading to your local dispensary is never something I'll advocate for. I'm trying to figure out the benefits of maple syrup. Well, I can think of a few, but it's probably not appropriate to talk about it in this forum. Brad, good thing you're a strong metropolitan man. You can cook for. What type of recipes do you need first? And Jennifer says, thank you all for being here to watch my son's story and interact with Glenn on this important conversation. Leona says, I live in San Diego and sadly we have so many addicts here, so many addicts and mentally ill people. I think a lot of times there's a connection, mental illness, trauma, and addiction seems to often be interconnected. So so what Jennifer said about getting the medical card and heading to your local dispensary isn't something she can advocate for. And you gotta think about the dispensary experience. If you're viewing it as a medical treatment, as a medicinal thing, you take your little medical marijuana card and you go into the dispensary and you go up to the guy behind the counter who's got a couple of tattoos on his face and maybe a piercing or two, and he's wearing a faded Nirvana t-shirt, and you're going to ask that guy what you need. You're going to ask him, I've got uh, I've got this issue because I'm going through chemotherapy. What should I be using? And faded Nirvana t-shirt guy is going to have a medical quality answer for you. Does that make sense? Yeah, Leona, I was pretty sure I understood what you meant. Mental illness and PTSD are connected. Yes, Leona, I'm sure. I'm sure there are. That it seems like either one could lead to the other. Brad doesn't like paying all the tariffs. Oh, oh I'm sorry, Brad. Well, we don't have any tissues out on our store. Leona says, here in California, I've heard that the pot dispensaries are more expensive, so lots of people get their pot from the black market. Back in the day, I bought pot from a good friend from my high school. When I was in high school, I remember a conversation where, and this would have been, no, it wasn't high school, it was middle school. This would have been 1975. I remember this guy in a class I was in. They were talking about legalization, and the guy said, if they legalize it, I'm still getting my weed from the street because I don't trust them. This is a seventh grader saying that. in 1975 or 74. And I remember that clearly. Today's THC is up to 97% more potent than Woodstock weed. That's crazy. It is crazy. And that's business. That's how business works. That the entrepreneurs that are doing this are just trying to be competitive, trying to offer a better product in their minds, better product to get more business, to get more sales, to be profitable. Every business has to be profitable. And so the end result is it is at the expense of the consumer and the consumer's health. Uh, Make our own weed butter? We can make our own weed butter for our hot and herbal honey tea. We can make our own Rick Simpson oil too. 6 ounces of weed and butter and coconut oil on low in a My middle school buddy was a prophet. He was actually a little bit creepy, but both could be true. Kids' bodies, we have had good intentions in legalizing it, but we have to face the fact that it did not pan out that way. Brenda says, Roblox, Jennifer, thank you for sharing Cullen's journey with us. I know it is keeping me clean off of fentanyl today and will help countless others in the years to come. God bless you and your family. Very nice, Brenda. Thank you. Leona, lots of people where I live drive around getting high. I can smell it when they roll their windows down when we're sitting at a stoplight. Ugh. Yeah, and there's separate laws about that. Impaired driving is a thing. It doesn't have to be because of alcohol. Impaired driving can be weed or prescription drugs or whatever. But it takes a law enforcement agency willing to uh, enforce those laws. Yes, Glenn, it's a business. You're right. At the expense of our youth, I just want the risks to be more clearly known. Good answer. I don't know if y'all heard that or not. Sorry. Uh, Kristen says crockpot stirring for 8 hours a day for 6 hours for 8 days, 64 hours of turning, turn off at night, then strain and freeze. Wow. Yeah, isn't that kind of a gigantic amount of work? Wow. Brenda, thanks for sharing. I can't get behind trading one addiction for another, but I do wish you well in your recovery. Brad says you sound like you're explaining jelly roll. And Brenda says we must get the information out. Weed changes children's developing brains. And that is really a huge one. Raquel says, I just finished watching the story of Gina. I cried a lot. I'm so happy she ended up with a good person. Yeah, me too. So, Raquel, did you watch both parts? The escape and conviction, the both parts of the story? Kristen says, I'm staying clean off of fentanyl too, Brenda. I'm staying away from alcohol, cocaine, and cigarettes. Thank you, God. Very good. And Jennifer says, mostly I want everyone to be aware of the risks of weed, like we are now about smoking nicotine. But it's touted as innocuous, and it's not. Yeah, and it seems like any thinking person would recognize that there is certainly a potential for some kind of harm. And Leona agrees. Each adult should be able to do what he or she wants with full awareness and disclosure. That's key. And we must work to get THC out of kids' hands. Absolutely. Brenda says, Roblox, I am sorry. I should have been more clear. I am free of all substances. I see many people trying to use weed to get off of fentanyl, and it does not work in that way. Abstinence is the only way. Kristen said, I cry watching the stories too. I'm glad we are holding each other's hands. Oh, cool. Leona says, as my mom used to say, drugs are the scourge of our nation. The issue more than anything is the demand. I agree when I be in my power wheelchair that I smell pot out people's cars too. Yeah, it happens to me too. Uh, to me, it smells like high school. Kristen, thank God for pain relief drugs like weed. We don't have to take our expressed pills all day thinking that's our only solution. Way to go. Kristen, you can do it. Roblox, I agree. We must get the THC from our kids' hands. Allie, thank you for joining us. I was addicted to weed for 4 years, starting sophomore year of college. It's no joke. It stole a lot from me. I was depressed, unhealthy, in a vicious cycle. I tried over and over to quit. And Brenda says, Kristen girl, we got this. I am loving my clean life. I sure hope Cullen great, can feel great soon. Bless his heart. So glad he got the message young. That's huge right there. You got the message young. That's awesome. Allie says she's been clean for 6 months and I still think about it every day, but I feel so much clearer, healthier, happier now. Never again. Good job, Allie. Good job. Leona says, way to go, Brenda. Congratulations. And Roblox Cullen just turned 19 and is now 6 months sober and clean. The impaired driving started with Cheech and Chong back in the day. Yeah, I could see that. The Up in Smoke movie, I think, is what you're thinking of. And them smoking weed while they're driving on the road. The impaired, yeah. Brenda, did you quit smoking cigarettes yet? Leona says, congratulations, Allie. God bless you. Kimberly says, congratulations to you, Allie, also. Allie, I'm not sure how long the mental obsession for weed is, but it is probably 2 years or less. So just keep fighting that mental monster like I do. We got to get to that 2 year mark and then move right through it. Brenda says, Allie, I'm not sure how. Yeah, I just read that. Okay. Leona says, way to go, Cullen, for sure. And so, how is our thumbs up doing? And if anybody hadn't hit the thumbs up button, please. Roadblock, so wonderful to hear all of this encouragement. Yeah, yeah, it's a great group. There's always a lot of support here. It's kind of some of them compare it to like a AA meeting. Alex says, thank you, Brenda and everyone. I honestly think this will be with me my entire life, but I know I deserve better than what weed can give me. Roblox says, Marijuana Anonymous is a great program for anyone struggling, and Maranon for the families. Yeah, spot. I'm very grateful to be not driving boats drunk nor driving cars drunk. Driving boats? Well, that's good. That's a BWI. That's a real crime too. Let's see. That's what made me think to say that, Glenn. What a great community. Carla likes chewing tobacco. Is that so? I don't think I believe you, Brad. I need to see it, and then I'd need to walk away traumatized, I think. Kimberly says, I call it taking baby steps all over again. Brenda says, Brad, I remember Carla will be choosing what nursing home you reside at. That's right, Brad. You should be nice to her. Not be making up stories about her chewing tobacco. Okay. So Carla says, Dad, I don't drink, or Dad, I only drink and overeat. I don't smoke or chew tobacco. That's you. All right. So y'all just gonna get right into it right here. Miss Sheila's World of Fun and Inspiration. I tune in to learn about what my newly deceased son was battling with. I never understood that world. Congrats to every survivor on this live. So, Miss Sheila, thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here. Very sorry for your loss. Was your son lost to fentanyl? I don't remember. I feel like we've had this conversation before, but I don't remember. See, what a wonderful group of people. The way that people come together here, it is heartwarming. Okay, that's right. Circumstances imply fentanyl. That I remember. Now I wonder if I do this. No. Ah. Well, anyway, it's not true, Glenn. You're talking about the chewing tobacco, right? I was pretty sure. Don't do that. So, did you get a chance to meet the president? No. No, I did not. He was within 4 feet of me. I was recording video of him while my wife shook his hand and while the editor that went with us shook his hand. But I just recorded video and watched the event. Addiction on my mom's side is really scary. I bet it is. You know, it when you when it's in your family, you get a window inside the addiction world that you don't otherwise get. Leona says, God bless you, Jennifer, and your son Colin. For sure. We must not take life for granted and take anything that we do in our lives. For sure, Kimberly. So I'd like to let you guys know a little bit about the next story that's coming up. Brenda says, Miss Sheila, you should join the lives anytime you just want to ask questions or talk about your son. There's always one or four of us in recovery and many who have lost loved ones to poisoning or the disease of addiction. Brad says driving while texting is a serious problem that needs to be fixed. You know, we have a documentary about distracted driving on our channel. A documentary that we created for AAA. Leona says, as my mom used to say, every day is a gift from God. That's an important attitude. That's a wonderful perspective to have. Yes, Miss Sheila, and you are welcome to reach out for me if you want a live to happen, we can make it happen too. We can announce it, and then we could just call it a meeting. Yeah, we need to be doing something about driving impaired. We have made several documentaries about impaired driving. They're also on our channel. Copenhagen. Is that your favorite, Carla? Copenhagen. So I am going to share with you guys a link to the distracted driving documentary because it's not uh, it's not one that gets a lot of exposure. We posted it back in 2018, and it is an hour long, and I think it's an ideal kind of format for a documentary about fentanyl. You guys have a look at it. It's got ride-alongs. It's got interviews with law enforcement and EMTs, physicians, psychiatrists, users. So here's the link. It's called The Last High, and that link will take you there. And we also have a documentary on our channel called Sidetracked, and that one is the one about distracted driving. All important stuff. I can get the link for that too. Okay. Maybe I can get back to where I was. There we go. Okay. All right. So here's the link for the distracted driving. Leona, sugar is a serious danger to health, also. When I was only 5 years, Kimberly says, when I was only 5 years old, I witnessed two of my uncles back of the pickup truck for them to eat and drink. Yeah. We all improve as we go. We kind of evolve and uh, hmm. Yeah, we all improve as we go. We evolve. So I just keep learning these new things here. You ever did a story on young people? Young people. Well, no, I don't think so. But several of the documentaries we've produced, including The Last High, we produced with high school students as our crew, all volunteers, all people who had some sort of career interest in filmmaking or video production or journalism or law enforcement. And they got the chance to they got the chance to work doing the kind of work that is oriented toward their career goals. And so we've done that with three documentaries, two about DWI and the one about synthetic cannabinoids. And and those all worked out really well. Several of the team volunteers went on to do great things. Three of them are law enforcement officers. One's a state trooper, and one is a producer at the Hallmark Channel in Los Angeles now. And and one, when she graduated college, she went to work at Showtime. So yeah, lots of cool stuff going on. We have been here for a while. Leona, peanut butter cups are the number one selling candy worldwide. Really? That lets me down. Bioengineering bugs in it. In M&Ms? No, no, say it ain't so. Oh, that, nope, nope, nope. Why am I getting a warning? All right, folks. Huh, right there. Yeah. All right. I figured something out new. I figured something out new. Hmm. Double stuffed Oreos. Yeah. Oreos should be able to count as a meal, right? I mean, they're sandwiches. Yeah, M&Ms are awesome too. Okay, folks. We Carla likes king size. Okay. Leanna, I just thought I just bought a family size of Oreos, and all I have is a husband who doesn't like sweets. Good job. All the candy had been laced with bioengineering chemicals, even the Big League Chew bubble gum. Ah, yes, Rocket Man, this is live. Is that weird? But we are about to wrap it up. But thank you for being here. Brenda, I learned I can't keep junk food in the house. That's the trick. If it's not here, it's not the same level of temptation. Rocket Man, I know you, right? Right? So before we wrap it up, I want to check one more time if there's anyone in the audience who has any kind of questions that you'd like to ask me about the series or the channel or one of the other series on our channel or anything like that. Uh, I'm here and eager to answer questions, eager to hear from you. Everyone, what you take for here's Brenda's closing statement. What you take for granted, someone else is praying for. God bless you all. Thank you for keeping clean one more day. See you tomorrow at 7 p.m. That's right, tomorrow at 7 p.m. There's a fentanyl poisoning story premiering tomorrow. And and it's I don't know, I don't they are all powerful, they are all emotional, but this one is a little darker. For the victim, it was such a slow descent. Yeah, it kind of haunts me. Anyway, will you do a N2O series? Rocket Man says. We're open to it. When we go and have a storytelling summit somewhere, we typically record stories for several different topics when we're there. We've done with like in one summit there'll be some fentanyl stories, maybe a cannabis induced psychosis story or several addiction recovery stories, and um, human trafficking or domestic violence. That when we get to a location and start recording interviews, we're open to all those topics and we're open to others. I'm sorry, Kristen Sotre used to work in a grocery store in high school. Kimberly asked where the lifesavers at. They're right here. Same roll. I haven't opened them. Just my prop. But there is another roll in my car that is open. That's terrible, I know. White Castle burgers. I don't think I've ever had one. Leona says, God bless you all. I will pray for everyone here. God is always with us. Thank you so much, Glenn. You're doing God's work. Well, I hope so. Thank you very much. Brad, I can't go to Tennessee without stopping at White Castle at least twice. Okay, then. Gee, John, is this like a. Gee, Brad, is this like a football game? So, anyway, folks, it is about time to wrap it up. And so I want to thank everyone for being a part of this. Look, look, Kimberly, I have that too. And I have that. Anyway, I want to thank you all for being a part of this and hope to see you all tomorrow at 7 for the premiere of our next fentanyl poisoning story. And really, really grateful for you guys. So remember, you can always reach out to us. Uh, Jennifer says, thank you so much, Glenn. It was an honor to be interviewed by you and have you share my son Colin's story. God bless. Thank you for sharing your story. It means a lot. And obviously, it's reaching people. We have had over 300 people through this room since it began. And I'll even tell you how many people have watched the story. If I can figure that out. There it is. All right. So far, if I speak slowly enough, it might get you a little higher. So far, Cullen's story has been viewed 883 times. Just from the premiere on. $884. So, yeah, 7 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time. That sounds right. But you should probably check. I can give you guys a link to the premiere now. There is a link to Heather Nicole's story. Right there. It is a premiere, and we'll be announcing it later this evening, and we'll probably announce it again tomorrow. So, anyway, what I was saying is you guys are always welcome to reach out to us. You can email us. You can email us at info@texas-pictures.com. You can find us on Facebook under my name, Glenn Muse, and under the company name Texas Pictures. Both have pages. We're also on TikTok, and you can visit our website, texas-pictures.com. And on our website, you can find information about how to share your story, a link to our merchandise page, and more information about us, like mailing address and phone number and all that kind of cool stuff. So thank you guys very much for joining us, and we will see you tomorrow evening. Good night, folks.